Gabon's new military leader has been sworn in as the head of state less than a week after ousting the president whose family had ruled the Central African nation for more than 5 decades. General Brice Clotaire Oligui Nguema took the oath in the presidential palace in front of a packed, boisterous room of government officials as well as military and local leaders in Gabon's capital, Libreville.
Now, in his address yesterday, Oligui said the military had seized power without bloodshed and promised to return power to the people by organizing free, transparent, and credible elections. We're joined this morning by Chrys, who is the Executive Director, Global Advocacy for African Affairs. Mr. Anyanwu, good morning. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning. My pleasure.
All right. Of course, Coup has generated loads of talking points across the continent and, in fact, across the world. The swearing in of the new interim leader, many, of course, would describe it as very insincere because this is what happens in many times when there's a coup. You swear in an interim president, who actually, of course, organized the coup, and then he just never leaves. Do you expect that this is the same thing that would play out here?
Well, thank you. Queues remains, queues all over the world. It's even more interesting the way it plays out in Africa. You first of all ask, how do they come into power? They come by reinstating the obvious corruption, poverty, and all that. And then before you know it, the same thing that they actually condemned and fought for, becomes the order of the day. However, in this instance, there's a bit of something very interesting in the Gabon scenario. You see, most people that have reacted to the incident in Gabon, the EU, the UX, even the UN, all were very unanimous in condemning the last election in Gabon, which was actually the last stroke that broke the camel's back. So, and then while condemning the coup, of course, that is expected. Nobody ever wants to support coup or unconstitutional takeover of government. But there were unanimity in condemning the last election. I think that's a very interesting scenario here. Unlike what happened in Niger, where everybody we are shouting to high heavens, the civilian government must be restored back. So I think there's a lot of things that it's cut out for the ECA, the Economic Community of Central African States. I think a lot of job is there for the AU to focus on in making sure that the young man, even as he has promised, to conduct election, transparent and very free election in Gabon, even though he was very diplomatic and very strategic about that comment because he wasn't emphatic about time frame when he intends to conduct that election. But I think in international politics, diplomacy remains a very key, very strategic tool of engagement. So I think what the regional bodies and everybody that is interested in the Gabon scenario should focus on right now is bringing in the young guy and making sure they apply that soft and subtle pressure to ensure that he conduct election as quickly as possible. There's also another interesting dynamic in the Gabon scenario where the opposition opposition party have actually laid claim to winning the last election, and of course, while also appreciating the military for taking over, also appeal to them to continue the vote counting process in order to announce the result and restore power to the opposition who they claim actually won the last election. So I think the focus for now should be, on the guy, the General Nguema, to actually begin the process of restoring power back to civilian, which is what is fashionable across the world. Unfortunately, Gabon has been so deprived. One family has held sway for over 50 years. In fact, in the entire life span of Gabon after independence in 1967, they have only known 3 presidents and 2 from one family. Okay, yeah. And that is strange. That's ridiculous. And of course, even the guy in question, the guy that has just been sworn in, has also been part of the administration. Recall he worked as the seeing the Secret Service chief to the Elder Bongo, Omar Bongo. And then he has been around. He has been the head of the body, the presidential guys and all that. And he's even the cousin to the president, the ousted president. So he's been around. So Gabon has never really enjoyed democracy, so to say, or known, the various levels and varieties of democracy like other countries. But of course, the entire world is interested on what is happening in Gabon and looking forward to when Gabon will be, when the junta will be restored.
All right. Very interesting standpoint you mentioned there. In fact, the opposition have said that his swearing in is a continuation of the Bongo's dynasty because they don't believe that he's any different from the people, because he'd worked with them, like you mentioned, he served with them, and there are speculations that they might actually be related. So I wonder if this is going to be any different for the people of Gabon. Also, what are the potential economic repercussions of this political change in Gabon? How do you see that this will affect regional trade and investments in Central Africa?
Of course, anywhere you have Coup in the world, there are always implications. And there's no difference in what is happening and what has just happened in Gabon. There will be sanctions from the regional bodies, there will be sanctions from here and then and all that. So, and the funny thing or the unfortunate thing is that it's still the citizens who have been deprived, that will suffer it at the end of the day. So there's going to be economic sanctions. There's going to be people of course, immediately after the announcement of the Coup, they also announced that the borders have been closed, a lot of things, and just like what happened in Niger. So that's always some of the implications, the aftermath of unconstitutional takeover of powers across the world. And the long effect, or the long-term effect of this entire thing is that the citizens who have been at the forefront of this deprivation will continue to suffer at the end of the day. So it's normal. The economic implication is going to be so biting, and of course, while and that's why I mentioned that diplomacy should be the order of the day. You see, the idea of we're going to invade and all those things has never worked anywhere, and so I think what the interested party should be focusing on right now is bringing in the guy in and making sure they mount subtle pressure through diplomacy and all that. Was with the aim of ensuring that as quickly as possible, power elections is conducted in Ghana, and then power is being transmitted to who the power is.
All right. We of course struggling with that connection once again. Chrys Anyanwu speaking with us on the situation in Gabon. Of course, as it swears in its interim president. We're also joined this morning by Lopez Fafie Zongo Safiatu, who's, of course, joining us on the conversation. Good morning. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning, sir.
Great to have you on the program. Let's also get your thoughts on, the current situation in Gabon. It started off, of course, about 2 weeks ago. Has been a little chaotic. They have sworn in a new interim president. Does this in any way, maybe show that Gabon is moving in the right direction? Will the new president maybe be able to, establish a better Gabon in the near future?
Okay, of my point of view, regarding to the situation in Gabon, we see that the actions and the speech of the general are inclusive. Without discriminations, he invited all the former ministers, even the Prime Minister of Ali Bongo, the entire political class, the organization of the civil society. He said that everyone will be included for the restoration of the institution. He went further by promising to release all political prisoners, to bring back all political exiles, which is very essential in the management of a state. Fundamentally, that is what our country, Burkina Faso, lacked during the transition. Exclusions always create problems of frustration and and situations of non-consideration of each other's position. He is well on his way to bringing the Gabonese people together around an ideal of the renewal of Gabon. In terms of democracy, there is a breach. I must say that there is a breach in terms of democracy. If we take into account the fact that the opponents did not agree with the vote and had asked to verify, so we had two ways of put people. I must say that, and Pascaline, that is the elder daughter, the elder one. Of my point of view, to remotely guide, to blow with France behind, but very well made up to test of the people, you know, of Gabonese.
All right.
For me, that's my point of
Okay,
view.
we'll come back to still have some conversations about this. I want us to talk about how this would, in some measure, promote long-term stability. You know, what's the projection? Let's look at also the international community and their response to the situation in Gabon. And I'd like to bring in Mr. Anyanwu to talk about this. Share with us, you know, what your thoughts are on the international community's response to the situation. We know that Gabon, I believe that the African Union has expelled Gabon, if I'm correct. And there have been several reactions, of course, as was the case with the last coup, the coup in Niger. Are you satisfied with the international community's response? Are there other responses that we should expect, or a preferred way that this should have been handled?
Very sincere to you, I did not expect anything less, you know, considering the unique Gabon situation. Like I said earlier, there were this unanimous position on the last election in Gabon. US have responded, UN responded, EU responded, especially Germany, UK, you know, have all putting up their response. The only people have not really had so much, you know, from is France, and it's expected. Of course, we know the positions France has been playing in the Francophone region of the country. And France itself is very conniving. A lot of people are suspecting. In fact, somebody has described what is happening in the Francophone countries of Africa as the Francophone Spring. If you look at all the coups that have actually happened and were taking place in Africa, in West Africa, they are all Francophone countries. And you begin to wonder what is actually happening in these
Mr. Anyanwu, can you hear us?
You know, is the government and what France can do in the places?
We seem to be struggling with the connection there with Chrys Anyanwu to, of course, continue. Mr. Anyanwu, if you can hear us, kindly go ahead.
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, please.
Yeah, so I was talking about the France influence in the Francophone nations and about what someone has described as the Francophone Spring in the West African region. And if you look at all the coups that have actually taken place in the West African sort of region of the continent, it's just Francophone nations all through. So the international community has been very unanimous in this position in condemning the last election in France. Unlike elsewhere where coups have taken place, the Niger and other places. So I will say I was not surprised, because Gabon has, like I said before, has been so completely out of the democratic dividends for a very long time, for over 50 years. And then there is also this impression about Ali as a leader. A lot of people believe he has been so corrupt. There is this publication by a French outfit that's about 39 properties we are owned by the Ali by the Bongos families in France alone, over 70 accounts and all that. So that tells you about the corrupt tendencies of the dynasty in Gabon and all. So I think international community, even though Coup is not fashionable and all that, but of course, a lot of people like myself, and a lot of people are not surprised with the kind of comment and position that has been taken by the international community over what happened in Gabon. However, I think coups must be condemned. Coups are not acceptable in any form or manner. Coups, I continue to reinstate our old fashion. The power belongs to the people. There should be, mechanism should be in place right now at the moment to begin to shift towards restoring power to the civilian administration in Gabon. So, and anything short of that is unacceptable. And I think, like I said before, that's what the international community should focus on now. Bring in the guy, use subtle pressure and ensure that in no distant time, powers are being handed over to the civilian administration.
All right, let's bring in our other guest, the political activist Lopez Safiatu, to join us and give us a picture of what's going on in Burkina Faso. Now, we ask this because what we've seen in the coup in Gabon and Niger is that the people were excited about the military taking over. They were excited. They widely celebrated the coup. And over time, we're not certain what the expectations are in the coming years. So you have your own interim president in Burkina Faso. Give us a picture of what it was at the point of him taking over power and how exactly government has been and how the people feel about the situation in Burkina Faso. Maybe that will give us an insight into what to expect in Gabon.
Okay. Burkina Faso, first of all, we were excited because former one that was made, did the coup to the former president, that is Roch Kabore. He was not going, he was going to another, we felt that he was bringing only Blaise Compaoré's people, and he was not doing what people was expected from him. And then when this one came, we were on support. Me, myself, I was in support, and he was young because we were always fighting for young people to, to come over and take, to be on power. But we are all disappointed today because today no one can talk. If anybody, even if you post on Facebook, they will come and take you. And even this Friday, they killed one military at the presidential. So he's and when they take personally, I publish on my Facebook page. We have like 4 million people going there to look at the page. I publish some pictures of people that has been taken from them, and nobody is still talking. Even the justice, he doesn't, like last time. He sent some military to go to the court and take over one of his girlfriend. So we are all disappointed. We are all disappointed. What he has he promised, he's not fulfilling it, and now he wants to modify our constitution to stay in power. He doesn't want to respect the calendar. So everything is messed up. So like normally military, what we know that is it's all about money. It's all about the power. Because if we see how it was, they did before they made the coup to Roch Kabore, which was elected. So to put people on frustration because of the terrorists, they were not giving food to some military that died. Eating some leaves, and they made everything to put this information online so that people will be angry with Roch Kabore. That it worked. And after that, when we see like before yesterday, we lost about 50 persons, and 2 camps of military has been taken over by terrorists. And this man is fighting. He's sending military to Niger to do a war against ECOWAS.
So Safiatu,
it's not today when
if I get you correctly,
this one.
Okay.
Yes.
Go ahead,
he promised people. He said his security. He said he made a coup for the security of and the integrity of our country. Today, he's not talking about this one. Today, he is making campaign. The Prime Minister goes around talking to chiefs, everybody that they want to modify our constitution, and we don't see what is it going to do with the constitution. An irregular power cannot touch the constitution. That one we know. And today, everything is he's paying people to sleep at this place that we call place of revolution, and they are there in front of where he made his presidential place. So, because he's afraid that another one is going to make a coup to him, so we are disappointed. Everybody, no one can talk. How can a military go to the court, take a woman that has touched someone and beat? It went on viral on internet, and the judge made arrest this woman, and he sent his people to come and go and take this woman.
So Safia too, I mean, in essence, what we're sensing is that the people of Burkina Faso are very disappointed by his administration, by his regime, because it does seem like what he promised is not what he delivered. And I would like to bring in Mr. Anyanwu on a final note to react to this. You've heard very clearly what she has said about the current government administration, the interim government in Burkina Faso. Is this something that we should expect in Gabon and maybe Niger at some point?
I listened to her very keenly, and I was just smiling because, when people say the worst of democracy is still better than the best of military administration, this is exactly what it is. There is no way, military administration is a no-no. It's a no-no. No matter how bad your democracy is, it's still better anyways. But of course, one thing people can take away from a democratic system of government is your liberty. That is a no-go area. And if you listen to her, you just realize that they are not free. I heard her said even going to social media right now they're not even free to even post as. So that is exactly what you should expect in a system such as this. And of course, when people condemn and keep condemning the military takeover, these are some of the things, that makes them condemn some of these things around Africa. So I think the time, if you look at the early post-colonial days in Africa, the 60s and early 70s, when Coup was very rampant in Africa, almost all the regions of Africa experienced one form of Coup or the other, and they would come and then hinge their intervention, reasons for intervention on corruption, on poverty, on maladministration, and all over. Those things, unfortunately, still resonate in most African countries up till today, unfortunately. But then, I think the focus for me, and I've made this point over and over again, the AU, the various regional bodies in Africa, and every stakeholder in this project of democracy should focus on ensuring that leaders begin to deliver good governance. And that's the only way you can continue to keep these guys in the barrack for life.
Well,
they don't have...
Might be a little tough, for the AU to, enforce or to, let or make its leaders or its members to, of course, deliver good governance. That might be hard for them. Still left for civil society groups and the people to demand better governance there. But just before we say goodbye, I wanted to just quickly mention that, a lot of times when we say that, you're under the military, there's no freedom. You can't speak or say your mind. A lot of governments under democracy do the same thing with their security agencies and with their, and security forces. It's really not different. The only difference is that one of them is wearing a military outfit, the other one isn't. But Mr. Anyanwu, we're out of time. We thank you very much for stopping by and for speaking with us. And of course, to all other guests, Lopez, Safiatu, thank you also for your time. We would like to, have you both again pretty soon.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Thank you, man.
Absolutely.